welcome to day 12 of Bookmas, the very last day of Bookmas. I can't believe it. We did all 12 days of Bookmas. Honestly, I feel like this is like one of my biggest accomplishments of the year, not only reading wise, but content creation wise, is creating this much content in such a short amount of time. And I'm so glad that you guys have come along with me on this Bookmas journey, but we are here. We are at the end of it, and we are going to be going over this bookish year. I'm going to be answering bookish questions that pretty much capture what my reading year has been like as a whole. So I'm going to be answering a bunch of different bookish questions to give you guys an idea of how my reading year went. It also is an opportunity for me to kind of recap the books that I loved this year, the books that I didn't love this year, my plans for next year. Sit down, get a coffee, get tea, get hot chocolate, whatever you prefer to drink, get a snack, and let's get into these end of the year bookish questions. So having my computer here, let's go through these questions. And the first question is what is your biggest reading win of 2025? So I do have a few different reading wins. One is just reaching my year-end reading goal, but the main one is getting back into reading. I had a huge reading slump from January to June where I read absolutely nothing, and it was hard. And a lot of it came with being a new mother, finding my footing in motherhood, and just rediscovering myself. And so that took a little bit more time than what I thought it was going to be. But once I got back into the reading mood, I have been on such a really good reading rhythm that I'm just feeling really accomplished. The next question is what book surprised you the most? There are two books that surprised me the most, and I don't think it's going to come to surprise because I've talked about it a few times, but it is Love Light Farms and Good Spirits by B.K. Borison. I needed to include both of these because these definitely did surprise me. I think I've said it enough times in most of my videos. I'm not a romance reader. I don't know if I'm just getting into the romance mood. I don't know if it was B.K. Borison's writing, but there was just something really magical about these books that really enraptured me. The next one is which book flew under your radar but became a hidden gem? So this isn't a book that was under my radar, but I feel like it's an author that's under many readers' radars. He is one of my favorite authors to read. I love every single book that he writes. He's definitely cozy fantasy, and that is The Bones Beneath My Skin by T.J. Klune. I have picked up almost every book that this author has written. He is very well known for The House on the Cerulean Sea series. Everything this author writes is so beautiful. The story is so memorable. The characters are memorable. And specifically this one stands out because it takes place in a very nostalgic 1990s, 1995 era. And if you're a 1995, 1990s baby and you read this, you're going to be like, oh my God, this brings back so many memories. This is following a character that has inherited his family's cabin. He is very estranged from his family because he's gay. And as he's going out there, there's actually some squatters at his family's cabin. There's an ex-military soldier as well as a mysterious little girl, and he goes on an adventure with them. And then the next one is who became a new favorite author of mine this year. And once again, I just have to mention B.K. Borison. I definitely see myself picking up more B.K. Borison. And I mean, I could mention Joe Abercrombie as well of The Devils, but the next question actually answers that, and that is what book defined your reading year overall? And that was The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. My reading year has been full of ups and downs and battles and tragedies and soft moments and hard moments and scary moments, and The Devils is all of that wrapped in one, and brutal. I feel like my reading year has been very brutal, especially with being in a 6-month reading slump and reading nothing. And then for the next question is what book made you fall in love with reading again? This is actually a book that made me get out of that 6-month reading slump, and that was A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangoom Mandana. This was my first Sangoom Mandana book, and it was so magical and so whimsical. And then we have what is the best sequel or continuation of a series this year, and I just have to mention it, Accomplice of the Villain by Hannah Nicole Meyer. I just love this series. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it was the hype around it. I don't know if it's the fact that it's just a fun take on fairy tales. It's just fun. It's a funny office romance between a villain and his assistant. And for the next question, it's what book had the best atmosphere? The Very Secret Society of Regular Witches by Sangoom Mandana. I know that this book has been very hyped. I know that this book is on everyone's must-read list, and I can see why. It is so atmospherically beautiful. The magic is so whimsical. The characters are just heartwarming and comforting. The love is just so sweet. The kids in this book are just so adorable, and the time that I picked it up was just perfect. And just go read it. I now understand why so many people consider this a top 5 fall read for them. And then I need to mention this next one. So what is the book that took you the longest to finish? And this one is a long one, and that is Metamorphosis by Ovid. This is a classic piece that goes over a lot of Roman Greek mythology, and it's pretty much Ovid's ode to Augustus, the emperor at the time, and him pretty much telling him that everything changes. Everything is always going to change. It's pretty much him telling the story of Rome's greatness to the fact that Rome's gonna fall one day, and that even after Rome falls, Ovid is going to be remembered. He's going to live on immortally through his work, and he does, obviously, because here it is. This book took me 2 years to finish. I kept picking it up and putting it down, picking it up and putting it down, and I think I read it almost every single month this year, just for me to get, I wanted to be done with it. Moving on to the next question, which genre took over your reading? So what I read mostly this year was definitely a lot of cozy fantasy and magical, I would call it magical romance, or not really paranormal romance, but romance with a little bit of magical elements in it. And then it's a genre that you rediscovered or unexpectedly loved, romance. Honestly, was really surprised on how much I've really enjoyed romance this year. And then a genre that I drifted away from. This isn't unintentional, and it's definitely something I want to fix for next year, and that is high fantasy, like The Devils or Empire of the Vampire or anything by Brandon Sanderson or anything by Robin Hobbs. High fantasy is still my top favorite genre that is out there. However, I think this year I just needed to focus on getting back into reading, and that's just not where I would have been able to do so. Even though I drifted away from it this year, it's definitely not a genre I'm going away from at all. It's just a genre that's been on pause. And then favorite character. So my favorite character is from The Devils. Her name is Sunny. She is an elf, and in this world, elves are very much so treated as demonic, satanic creatures that are trying to come over and take over the human world and kill everyone. And I mean, they could partially be right, partially be wrong, but Sunny was such a cinnamon roll character that you just really wanted to protect. She was very childlike, and you just really wanted to take care of her, and maybe that's her plot. Maybe she just wants to come across as that. But yeah, Sunny from The Devils was a character that I fell in love with the most this year. Alright, let's get into a few questions that talk about the books that weren't the greatest this year. And the first one is a biggest letdown of 2025, and this book I no longer own because I unhauled it because I really didn't like it that much. It was a very big letdown for me, and that is the Grimoire Grammar School Parent-Teacher Association. Try saying that 10 times fast. I was going into this expecting cozy, whimsical, magical school along with some funny teacher-parent dabbling. I did not get that. I got trauma. You kind of hate everyone, including the main character. That was my biggest letdown, which leads me to a DNF that still bothers me and that I think about. I usually, when I DNF a book, I move on and I don't think about it, but this one has just really bothered me since day one, and that is The Baby Dragons Cafe. I wanted to love that so much, but gosh, after the first 5 pages, it made it really hard. I'm surprised I got halfway through the book before I DNF'd it. I still think about it in the sense that it just bothers me with how many issues there were in that book, and I don't understand why it's so popular, because I see it in all the bookstores and I see people buying it, and I just maybe don't understand why I didn't like it when everyone else likes it, but it is one of my biggest DNFs for this year. So moving away from sad books, let's talk about the prettiest edition that I obtained this year. Easily, Empire of the Dawn by J. Kristoff. It is beautiful, it is wonderful, it is the Waterstone special edition that is signed. And for such a pretty book, I know it is going to mentally and emotionally destroy me, so there you have it. And then what author do I want to read more of going into next year? Definitely Joe Abercrombie is one author that I really want to read a lot more of. I loved The Devils, I loved his writing, I loved the way that he writes battle scenes and character development and world building and plot, and so I definitely want to go into his, I think it's the First Law trilogy is the next one that I probably want to get into. I've read the synopsis for that one. What reading habit changed for you this year? I stopped sticking to specific genres. So I noticed that when I was stuck in like fantasy or stuck in, classic literature, my reading slumps would come very quickly. So my goal this year was to really change up those genres, and I did. And because of that, I found a rhythm in reading, and by the end of this year, I have felt like I have not gotten into as many reading slumps. So I do want to definitely continue that. And then what are you hoping to adjust or improve in your reading life next year? I've talked about this already. I'm done with setting TBRs, so I'm no longer going to be setting TBRs, and if I do set any, it's going to be seasonal TBRs because I definitely do better with seasonal, which are a little bit longer. I want to continue picking up different genres. I don't want to, get in the habit of reading one and falling into a reading slump. And I want to kind of continue this really good reading rhythm that I have going on. I really want to keep up the rhythm of changing my genres every time I read. One book that I must pick up in 2026 and I want to pick up in 2026 is Calabasas by R.F. Kuang. I just really want to get into this one. This is one that was on my most anticipated release for this year. Didn't get around to it. And then what series do I plan on prioritizing going into 2026? I have two series that are a priority for me. One is The Empire of the Vampire. I do need to continue with Empire of the Damned. And then the other one is the Mistborn trilogy. I have read The Final Empire. I do need to pick up The Well of Ascension. I want to continue Brandon Sanderson because I want to get to his Stormlight Archive series. And then the final question is what are my plans for this channel for next year? So there are definitely a few different plans. There are some videos that I want to concentrate on more of. I also have a few different other video series that I want to start. One of them I will give away, which is finishing the series that I'm currently in the middle of. That's a series that I've wanted to do for a while. There are a few other series that I've been thinking about. I've also done a lot of content auditing already, kind of thinking about what videos I think I want to do for next year. Definitely stick around for next year's content. Have a lot of different things I want to go through, a lot of different fun videos to share with you guys. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Can't believe it. At the end of Bookmas, this is how we're going to be ending Bookmas. Definitely let me know in the comments below any of these questions. If there's any question that you really want to answer, please let me know that answer in the comments below. I always love hearing about your guys' reading journey. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.